Hey Algebra, here's the notes for 6.3, solving multi-step equations. This is going to look very similar to our Chapter 3, because it was important, yes. It's going to be very similar because all of the steps that we learned in Chapter 3 are going to be the same steps here, with the exception of the one thing we learned in 6.2, which is when you multiply or divide by a negative, you must flip the sign. So let's just remember. Alright, fabulous. Now, what do I need to do in order to get the x by itself? Well, I should probably move this 4 to the other side. Let's combine like terms across the sign. In order to do that, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. When I do that, let's jump to another color so you can see what my new equation is. Let's go a nice blue. What I have left over here is just a 4x and a really sad pen, I guess. Notice this canceled out. I just added, I didn't multiply or divide at any point, so I don't have to flip my sign. I get 16. Wow, I really thought that pen was going to work better. And to simplify our last step here, we have to get this multiplication by 4 undone. So we need to divide both sides by 4. When I do that, I'm left with the final equation of x is less than 4. Notice, I multiplied or divided here, but it wasn't by a negative, so I do not have to flip the sign. Alright, that is my final answer. Now, first things first, you could check it by putting it back in, plug in a value less than 4. The easiest number here is probably 0. When I do that, I'm going to get 0 in this term and 0 in this term, and I'm going to find that negative 4 is less than or equal to 12. So my statement works. Also notice because it only said solve, it didn't say graph. We don't have to graph. Alright, let's jump over to example 2. First things first, I'm going to move all of my variables together. I'm not going to do this one in fun colors just because I want to save some time, but you can do this. This is a good study step for you if you struggle to remember what step you were on. This can be really, really helpful, so use this to your advantage. Alright, sorry, back to the example 2. These cancel out. Notice I'm left with a negative 15. The negative doesn't go anywhere because it is attached to that 15. The 4 didn't go anywhere. 5a minus 3a is positive 2a. Alright, now all my variables are together. That's a good thing. Now I need to get all my numbers together, all my like terms. How do we undo a positive 4? We subtract 4. On this side we have negative 19. If I borrow $15 and then I borrow 4 more, I'm now $19 in debt. Notice this is still just subtraction. This is not this is not multiplication and division, so I'm not flipping my sign at all yet. Alright, those cancel out. I'm left with 2a on this side. And then my final step, divide both sides by 2. When I do that, this isn't going to be a nice number. A lot of you are going to want to jump and say like, oh, it's a decimal. Don't make it a decimal. Just leave it as the 19 over 2. It's nicer that way. And also, because we're mathematicians who like to be mathematically precise, we're going to flip whole so that our a is on our left side. Notice a is less than this value, so when I flip it, I have to say a is less than that value. Doesn't make it positive or anything. All it did was it took the whole equation, it flipped it the other way so that it looks a little bit nicer for us to work with. You'll see when you get to higher maths why that's really nice. Alright, let's keep going. How do we solve this one? A lot of you are going to be like, oh, quick, multiply by that 7, get it out of the denominator. Hold on. What did we learn in Chapter 3? We always have to move the number that is farthest away from the variable. In this case, it's q. So I'm going to move this positive 1 first. I'm going to subtract it over. When I do that, I get q over 7, negative 6. Now, because the 7 is closer, I can work with it. Now I can multiply both sides by 7, cancel that off, and get q is greater than negative 42. Notice, didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so we're A-OK, not flipping the sign. All right, next one. Ooh, this one looks tricky. Here's the thing. This is all technically in parentheses. So some of you are going to want to say, oh, move the 6 over. But that's not actually our first step. Because this is a whole term, we actually have to get this division undone first. And the way we're going to do that is just reminding ourselves by putting it in parentheses, multiplying both sides by 2. Because now that we've multiplied by 2, now that whole term that was on top is all its own term. We no longer have to worry about the fraction bar. This takes some practice. If you're getting discouraged by this, don't. I'm telling you that it takes a long time to get good at this and to see all of those little steps. All right, next thing. What is the number farthest away from the x on this side? It's going to be this addition of 6. So let's move that away. Those cancel. Remember, positive, negative of the battery, they must cancel out. 24 minus 6 is going to be 18. We divide both sides by negative 3, and we get x on one side, and we get negative 6 on the other. But notice, we divided or multiplied by a negative, so what happens to our sign? Well, it has to flip. You must remember to flip. All right, we could check that. What's a number greater than negative 6? It's easy to check. 0. 0 cancels this term because negative 3 times 0 is just 0. So 6 over 2 is then going to be 3. Is 3 less than 12? Heck yeah, it is. So we're just going to box our answer. Again, notice I haven't been graphing for any of these because it didn't tell me to. If you want to for practice, go for it. Absolutely more power to you. I just haven't been choosing to. All right, here's another one. Let's get all of those variables together. I get, that cancels, so I get negative 12 plus 5d. All right, now I got to get all my numbers together. I'm going to say positive 12 on both sides. So I get 0 over here, and I get 5d over here. Some of you would stop right here and you'd be like, oh my gosh, Miss Burry, panic. Drop the mic, go home. No, no, no. Don't panic. 0 is a perfectly viable answer. So all we have to do is chop this the way we would any other day. We're still going to divide both sides by 5. 0 divided by 5. 0 cookies divided by 5 friends. Sad, but it's okay. Nobody gets any cookies today. Notice on this side I just have d. I could leave it this way. We've talked about this though. We are mathematically precise. D is less than 0, so I'm going to rewrite it as d is less than 0. And I'm going to box it. Perfectly fine answer. Just leave it alone. Do not panic. 0 is okay. All right, last one. This one looks tricky, but if we use the same tactics we've been using up to this point, it'll be fine. Notice, PEMDAS tells us that we have to deal with parentheses first. In the case of this problem, that means taking this negative 2 and distributing it to both terms. I'm also going to, in the process, I'm going to distribute this negative into both terms as well. We got to get rid of those parentheses or they're just going to trip us up. So let's see what we have over here. We've got 3a. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12a. I know I'm writing my a's differently. I'm sorry. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. And now on my left side, all my parentheses are gone. That's a really good thing. That means we don't have to deal with them anymore. Sign stays the same. 4 stays the same. Let's distribute that negative. Negative times 4a is going to be, well, negative 4a. Negative times 6 is going to be negative 6. And now we are done with all of our parentheses. Yay. This is a good thing. All right, from here it's the same as it always is. Let's combine like terms on each side and then simplify across. 3a minus 12a is negative 9a. Couldn't do anything with the 8, had to leave it alone. 4, notice I'm putting my little symbols over the term so I remember what I'm doing. 4 minus 6 is going to be negative 2 minus a. Couldn't combine the 4a with anything. All right, everything's simplified on each side. Let's go across. Let's get all of our terms together. I'm going to move this 9a over because I see that when I add 9a to both sides, it's going to make my a term positive. I always like to work, let's do some dividers in here. I always like to work with a positive coefficient there if I can. All right, 8 greater than negative 2. Negative 4 plus 9 is positive 5a. Let's get that 2 away from the 5a. We get 10 greater than 5a. Let's jump this up just a little bit here. Final step, divide both sides by 5. You get a is less than 2. Final step though, because we are mathematicians, we're going to flip it all and say a is less than 2 with my variable on my left side. Beautiful. That's all there is for the 6.3 notes. It just takes a lot of practice to get good at this stuff. Quick tips. Remember your goal from the very beginning of the video is to get the variable alone. Second tip, don't forget to flip your sign. I'm just going to put sign over here. All right, don't flip your and then always box your answer at the end. All right, there you go.